Hi, I'm Dr. Lurie. I'm a physician specializing in psychiatry, and I'm the author of PsychePolitics, How to Read the Political Mind. You know, I've often said that PsychePolitics is biologically based, and that's why its principles apply in any country at any time. However, many people wonder just how this biological basis works. First of all, it all starts with our genes. This is where we come from. This is what we're ultimately made of. But how do genes get to the mind? Well, here's how genes work. Genes make proteins, and proteins are what makes up the body. And these are the organs in the body: the heart, the lungs, the brain, the skin, the bones, whatever. Let's take a look at the brain. That's an organ of the body. Brain has various functions. The brain works in various ways. We can't necessarily see how this works, at least not in today's scientific world, but we know that the brain controls various functions of our body. One of them is balance. You know, we don't have to think too much about balance. The brain takes care of it. That's how the brain works. Sure, we can control it to some extent. We can spin around, get dizzy, and fall over and lose our balance. But for the most part, the brain takes care of it, and we're unaware of it. Here's something else the brain takes care of, and we're unaware of it too. And that's breathing. We don't know that we're breathing all the time. Sure, if we pay attention to it, we do. But most of the time, we don't have to pay attention to it. We're really unaware of what's going on with our breathing. Again, we can control it. We can hold our breath, go underwater. But for the most part, we don't pay much attention to it. The brain takes care of it. That's how the brain works. Let's see some other ways the brain works. Well, the brain takes in perceptions. What's a perception? Well, we're talking about the simple perceptions: seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, smelling, and even perceptions that come from inside our body, such as pain. So the brain takes in these perceptions, and based on the makeup of our brain, that is what we're born with from our genes, and how the brain's been changed with our development, which we'll see more about in other videos, the brain takes those perceptions, and here's what it does with them. It makes thought, and that's how we reason, and it also makes emotions or feelings. It's how we feel about things. These are the two big categories of how the brain works when it comes to the mind, which is where we're headed. Now, if you notice, on this side of thought, there's not too much color. And that's to emphasize that a fair amount of our thought and reason and a fair amount of our feelings or emotions are unconscious. That is, we're unaware of them. But for the most part, the brain takes care of our thoughts. We just keep thinking, thoughts come to our mind. And our feelings come to our mind. The two are related. Let's see a little bit more about that. Thought and reason come together to what's called the executive function of the brain, where we plan and decide things. That's what we actually do. Now let's look back a second and take a look at these squiggly arrows, because this is important. The arrows are different in men and women. Women have more connections from certain parts of their brain that have to do with feelings to the planning or deciding part of the brain than men do. There are studies that show this. There are not that many, but this is starting to become clear. Well, what does this mean in a practical sense? Well, first of all, women, when you say your husbands don't have feelings, give them a break. They don't have as many feelings as you do. And guys, when you say your wives are too emotional, give them a break. They are. They've got more connections from the feeling center to the planning and deciding center. And that's just how it is. And we'll be talking about gender differences a lot as we talk about PsychePolitics. In any case, thought, feelings, planning and deciding, and other things are together what makes up the mind, which we also can call the psyche. It's the same word. Well, what do we plan and decide that has to do with politics? Well, the most important thing we decide to do as individual citizens in a democracy, is vote. Well, I hope this video has given you a good idea of how PsychePolitics works, or at least how we go from the biology of our genes to the psychology of our minds. In the next video, we're really going to see how the unconscious works, and in fact, that's what it's called, How the Unconscious Works.